Okay.
Hello. I always forget how ridiculous my picture is until I see it zoomed in.
Let's see how many folks will actually show up today.
I know at least Evan was planning on joining because he was over at my house earlier, and then we went to lunch, and he said he'd see me at this. So
Starting to feel what it was like too short notice about reinstantiating the meetings.
yeah, I mean, I guess you just sent the email yesterday. Is that
Yeah, I
No.
sent it yesterday on my US time zone.
right?
On the other hand, it actually acknowledged that there is a meeting today. Strange.
Yeah, it might have been too short notice for people to be like, or maybe people didn't even realize it started today.
Yes.
Hey, Evan.
Hi.
Hey, Evan.
Sorry for being a little bit late. Yeah, just had to.
Hey, we're the only ones here anyway. I was just commenting on. I forget how ridiculous my picture is sometimes until I see it up close.
Just your picture?
Like,
yeah, no, it's quite something. I think it's difficult to compete with that.
Yeah, we were thinking it might have been too short notice for many people to show up, if anybody at all.
Yeah, I think I suppose it only made, especially I suppose us here have had a couple of hours, but anyone in the US time zone would probably not have seen the notification.
Well, I sent mail yesterday when it was still like daytime in the US, so there are chances.
Oh, okay, so maybe they did, but they don't want to speak to us. Yeah.
Or maybe we had some other plans.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Anyway, for us, it would be a good practicalities to actually check what we have. So, like calendar invite, I restored. Meeting notes document, it's still alive. Yeah, all of us can edit it. That's good. Zoom conference works. Recording is automatically done, and I have credentials, so I can later on upload it to normal YouTube channel. So at least like our logistics part for working group are fine, or supposed to be fine.
Okay.
All right.
And
so
this is going to be, I saw this, just to clarify, this every 2 weeks now, right?
yes. So calendar invite should be now like every second week.
Okay.
I haven't checked it like until what date. I was asking for CNCF to do it until at least like next summer, but I checked on the
yeah, this is until 16th of June 2022.
Oh, great. So yes.
Yeah.
When we are good.
It'll be interesting to see where we are by then.
Well, I hope by that time we already don't need that group.
We don't need the meeting anymore. Yeah, that'd be ideal, right?
Yes. Because practically, like, there are two major things what we need to be done. So, like, we have spec right now. We have minimum library. We have Podman implementation. So now what we are missing is containerd and cryo implementation, and Ed is working on those. And then we will need to have this Patrick cap. And as soon as this Patrick cap is going to be in active discussion, I think majority of that will be in SIG node scope rather than this particular meeting.
Yep, no, that makes sense. And once we have, some more backing for that cap, at least the SIG node stuff, I can help shepherd the changes through and get them merged.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
I know there'll obviously need to be other changes on other components that aren't just SIG node, and those will obviously, we'll need to find the right people to pull in to help us there. Because I think with a big change like this, we have to find champions for those, right? In those other components. Otherwise, it'll take a long time getting them in.
Absolutely.
So we need to figure out who the right people are in all those other SIGs to loop into this.
I was also hoping on our team, Christian Litke, he is currently working on implementing the NRI both for cryo and for containerd. And one of the example plugins what he wanted to implement was like to showcase how CDI can be implemented as a plugin. But that code is not yet ready. So I think the latest what I heard from him last week was what the cryo implementation is done for NRI, and he's still fighting with containerd internals, how to properly like put the NRI inside. The problem with implementation of NRI was what initially we did it based on practically like cryo internals. And when we started to implement it in containerd, we realized that well, if we do it the same way like we did for cryo, when we are not able to handle properly other clients like CTR or Docker or, well, anything what uses the Docker socket directly. Or, sorry, container key socket directly. So that's why, based on Mike Brown's comment, we need to refactor a bit the code to it. There are two separate hooks where it needs to be implemented. Like one is for just pure OCI container part and like the core container operations, and one for like higher level abstractions like well, sandbox and CRI protocol and related things. And when it was also additional fun, this handling the metadata. So like this label and annotations will not necessarily exist on all levels. So something is only known in CRI part of a protocol, something is known on the OCI level, and so on. So that's why the NRI work is a bit
delayed.
Well, it's not delayed, it's just not as easy as we initially thought.
I see.
Because of this well, different internal data handling. But as soon as we will have it, we're planning to have just like few plugins to showcase what we can do. So like CDI plugin was one example. We have Logger plugin. I also had in mind to implement the, if you know, in cryo, you have this OCI hooks mechanism. So you have a directory where you can put a JSON files, and this will inject the hooks into a container. So that's, again, like one more plugin which we can showcase how NRI can work.
So that every runtime would end up having this hooks mechanism instead of just cryo. Yeah.
But anyway, for our scope, like for devices, I think the CDI implementation should be done in the core, like not as a plugin.
Why? I mean, I think I agree, but I'm just curious what your reasoning is.
My reasoning is having it as a plugin, it will create problems with installations. So like normal users, if you need to install like main component plus bunch of plugins, it's always like prone to errors. So, and we are talking about device support. I think it would be more reliable for the end user to at least like debug if something is not happening right, to have it as a core part of a runtime.
Yeah, I guess what I was wondering is that if it was built in the NRI plugin framework, then we'd only have to do it once, right?
True.
Meaning you guys are already getting NRI working in these 3 runtimes, and now we're going to need to get CDI running in all these runtimes. But if there was a abstraction for the plugin, then is there the notion of a built-in plugin? So it could still be built as a plugin, but it's just always included kind of thing?
No, we haven't thought about that possibility yet. So if you'd like, please comment on this NRI pull requests. So far, we were more thinking about like how to make sure what the plugin interface itself is flexible enough, so we can catch like all the needed events, like create, update, delete, list, and so on, with all needed internal metadata. And second thing, to make it as a robust and fast enough interface. So original NRI proposal was exec style, like CNIs, very simplistic interface. And what we are currently trying to implement is TTRPC mechanism. So well, plugins can be more like stateful, where plugins can, let's say, subscribe to some of the events and wait for it. And then like bi-directional communication between the plugin and the runtime is more efficient if you are using something like TTRPC or gRPC.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to freshen up on exactly what NRI's quote unquote value proposition is, but is there something you can send me just as a high level overview? Because I looked at it at one point way back when I feel like it's been almost 2 years ago. It probably wasn't that long though.
No, it's not that long. I think NRI as a project was proposed like summer last year.
Okay, so it's just over a year.
Yeah, it's a bit more than a year. I'm trying to search quickly if I have links. I will add it to the meeting notes.
Yeah, great. I remember at the time, the one thing that I didn't quite understand with NRI, and maybe this is just me being stuck in the old way of doing things, but I didn't see how you would be able to do something like what the static CPU manager does today if you had NRI in place as a replacement for it, where they reshuffle what CPUs are given to different pods based on what a new pod that just landed has its exclusive CPUs set up as.
But that's exactly the point of having this stateful possibility for the plugins. So,
but how do you know that it's a Kubernetes pod and not just some other random container on the system?
well, that depends on the metadata what we are getting as part of a plugin call.
Okay. Yeah, I think I just need to take a look at it in a bit more detail then.
So I added links to the current pull requests. Like one is NRI PR itself. So it's about like the overall idea and well, what we're trying to do. And then two for prototypes for both containerd and CRI-O.
And has there been any attempt to say re-implement the static CPU manager from Kubernetes in NRI, like kind of one-to-one? Just thinking through, like, if we really wanted to go this direction, it'd be nice if there was a path where, you pull that in, you stop using static CPU manager, but then you get the exact same thing you had before. And now we innovate from there rather than trying to push things up into the CPU manager again.
So you know about existence of our project called CRI Resource Manager, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Again, I have to refresh myself on the details, but yeah.
So practically right now it's implemented as CRI proxy. So it overrides whatever decision CPU manager or memory manager is doing. But when it has its own set of policies about how to allocate the resources. And we have a copy of static policy. So it can work as just a simple drop-in.
Got it. Okay.
So the CRI Resource Manager, we have, again, just a proof of concept. We tried to implement it as an NRI plugin. And I know we can do it. So practically, you can have a stateful NRI plugin, which will be controlling like CPU memory alignment.
Makes sense. I guess the only thing that it's then, as you mentioned before, the one downside of this would be managing the fact that you've got to install these plugins at this other layer that people aren't used to, instead of just setting a flag on their kubelet or whatever.
That's true. But on the other hand, it will provide a lot of more flexibility on different installations scenarios. Yeah. So, like for example,
I'm not arguing one's better than the other necessarily. I'm just saying that
Yeah, but I mean, like from a maintenance perspective. So imagine like you have let's say like small VMs on Google or Amazon cloud when you don't need all of this complexity. But as soon as you get like either bare metal machine or you get a big VM instance where it might help something, you have a flexibility. And when another thing, what we also prototype it in CRI Resource Manager is what it's not like policies is not only about hardware. So sometimes it might be better to have a policies for application level, like just grouping applications based on certain criteria.
Yeah, and if your
Practically, like to
organization
limit burstability aspect of the pods.
Yeah. And if your organization decides, hey, this is just some custom logic we want for
Yeah.
our setup, you can plug that right in.
Exactly.
Or it's much
So-
harder to do that in the kubelet.
Uh,
Unless you fork the kubelet.
exactly. So I would use a bit more stronger word. So it's impossible to do in kubelet.
Yeah.
Because like kubelet's supposed to run like everywhere in all conditions. My feeling is what like kubelet should direct what should be run, but how it should be run, it should be implemented on the lower layer.
Yep. I don't disagree with that. It's just different than what's been done until now, for whatever reason.
Yeah, but on the other hand, have you seen recently? It was a report. I think it was mentioned on the KubeCon. Was it SysDig or some other company, like one of these big integrators? It was one interesting graph. Is what on Amazon Cloud, if previously it was like customers were like getting the machines and then installing Kubernetes and trying to run it. But nowadays the trend is more what we're using the Amazon Fargate service. So practically, like instead of maintaining all the infrastructure, like we still have Kubernetes, we still want to run containers, but the actual container is run by separate service.
Makes sense.
I don't know is it really like cheaper or more, well, I mean, in overall more cost effective, but I think it might be more reliable rather than trying to maintain your own infrastructure.
Yeah, I think the cost, I've often been in places where the cost discussion comes up way too early. And I suppose, for different phases of a project, so using something like that makes a lot more sense. And yeah, it doesn't make sense to manage your own installations. People don't need to understand how to install Kubernetes unless that is their job, right? Like, I suppose it is the thinking for many companies.
Maybe. Well, we never know exactly what is the reasons why people prefer way on Kubernetes. Like some prefer like specific options or control knobs, turn it on, but well, anyway. If it works for people, then we just need to support them. And practically with all, well, with both activities, NRI and CDI, what I want to get is more flexibility for installations.
Yeah, I do wonder though if we don't want to, at least with with some of the stuff, if we don't want to have built-in defaults. Like you said, right now for NRI, there is no notion of a built-in plugin, but I'm wondering if we want to introduce something like that at some point.
Maybe if it will be generic enough algorithm for something. Yeah, why not?
Okay, if no one else is going to show up, unless we have anything else to talk about, I might say we just end early today since it's been 25 minutes already. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Ivan, is it you who added this logo?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about that. I know when Renaud, I chatted to Renaud, he mentioned that one of the things that is sort of on the in progress or not is selecting logos. Is that still a thing, or is that something that we're not? I don't feel strongly about it at all. I just wanted to
Well,
know what the status is there.
I think the status is like it was before the summer. So we don't yet have a logo. We had the proposals, what Renault shared. I think we had a mail thread in the mailing list with some voting. But I don't think we had a conclusion for that voting.
Okay. Is that something that we think is important, or is that something that is not really critical? I mean, how important is it for a working group to have a logo, I suppose, is the question. At which point does it become important?
I don't know. I personally would rate it like as a good to have.
Okay, that's fine. It's not something that is that we're all itching to get done. I'll see if I can dig up the proposals again, and at some point we can revisit it then, or continue, not revisit, but continue the discussion. Okay, that's fine. I just want to make sure what the status was with that, or the opinion.
I remember what Renault mentioned, what he was using some of NVIDIA designers to help with that logo. So for any chosen variant, we need to find the person who actually draw it, and then get the real files in the formats what we can put in the like GitHub repository.
Okay, I'll make a note to follow up with Renaud about that. I think he did send me some stuff, but I'll just see if I can get some more contact details from him. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right, so 27 minutes and nobody else show up. I think we are done for today, probably, right, gentlemen?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, thank you for setting up the meeting again, Alex. We can, or Sasha. I don't know which one you prefer. I've heard other people. Which one you prefer in? It's
very simple. Alexander formal, Sasha informal.
Okay, Alexander, Mr. Co-chair. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks for getting the meeting set up again. And yeah, let's. I think that every 2 weeks, I think is a good cadence. Definitely suits me better than trying to figure out when it is. So looking forward to picking this up again.
Good. So thank you so much.
Cool.
Talk to you next, in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Cool. Bye, guys. Wait, sorry, last thing. Are we going to stop doing the Monday morning ones then? Or are we just going to replace that with this?
I don't know. Let's discuss in the chat.
Okay. Sounds good. Cool. All right. Bye, guys.
Cool. All right. Bye.
Bye.